Listen, I have been a military instructor for 3 standard cycles at the Galactic Defense Academy, and I thought I had seen everything. Every species, every behavioral quirk, every ridiculous excuse for why someone could not complete a simple obstacle course, but nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day the humans arrived. My name is Vexthar. I am a Krellian, which means I stand roughly 8 feet tall, have 4 arms that could crush a steel beam, and skin that looks like someone decided to make armor out of volcanic rock. We are known throughout the galaxy as the toughest, meanest, most no-nonsense warriors you will ever meet. Our drill instructors make other species weep just by looking at them. So when I got the assignment to oversee the integration of Earth's first military cadets into our program, I figured it would be another walk in the park. These humans were small, fragile. They had only 2 arms, for the love of the void. How hard could it be? The first human shuttle landed on a Tuesday morning, or what passes for Tuesday on this station anyway. Time gets weird when you are floating in space between 3 different star systems. The landing bay was packed with cadets from every corner of the galaxy. Zentari warriors with their crystallized exoskeletons. Boruvian scouts who could see in 17 different spectrums. Even a few Klaxons. Those squid-faced engineers who never shut up about propulsion systems. Everyone wanted to see the humans. The species that had somehow gone from discovering fire to building faster-than-light engines in less than 10,000 years. The species that had looked at a universe full of older, stronger, more advanced civilizations and said, yeah, we can compete with that. The ramp descended with a hydraulic hiss that echoed through the bay. Smoke, or maybe it was steam, I could never tell, with human ships, billowed out from the interior. Very dramatic, very human, as I would learn. The first one down the ramp was a male, broad-shouldered, with skin the color of deep earth and hair cropped so short it was barely visible. He moved like a predator, which was interesting because humans were supposed to be pursuit hunters, not ambush predators, but there was something in the way his eyes scanned the room, cataloging every exit, every potential threat, that made my second stomach clench. Instructor Vexa. His voice was deeper than I expected, considering his size. He extended one of his 2 pathetic arms toward me. Cadet Marcus Webb, reporting for duty, sir. I stared at the hand for a moment. Right. Humans did this weird thing where they grabbed each other's appendages as a greeting. Something about establishing trust or showing they were not carrying weapons. Bizarre. But I had read the briefing materials. I wrapped one of my lower hands around his entire forearm. He did not flinch. Point for the human. Welcome to the Academy, Cadet Webb. Where are the others? He grinned, which I had learned was not always a sign of happiness with humans. Sometimes it meant they were about to do something incredibly stupid. They are coming. Just needed to make an entrance, you know. I did not know. I also did not like the sound of that. Then I heard it. Music, blaring from inside the ship. Something with a heavy beat, and what sounded like aggressive chanting. The humans called it rock music, apparently. The volume was absolutely unnecessary and completely against regulation. Down the ramp came 15 more humans walking in a loose formation that somehow still managed to look coordinated. They were diverse, this group. Different skin colors, different heights, different builds, but they all had that same look in their eyes, that same barely contained energy like a plasma coil right before it explodes. At the back of the group, almost lost among the taller cadets, was a girl who could not have been more than 5.5 feet tall. Her hair was tied back in a simple knot, brown with hints of copper when the light hit it right. Her uniform was perfectly pressed, unlike some of the others who looked like they had slept in theirs during the journey. She was the only one not grinning. She was not scowling either. She just looked calm, observant, like she was taking mental notes on everything and everyone around her. Cadets, I barked, using my command voice, the one that made the walls vibrate. Form up, double line tallest to shortest. They scrambled, which was good. Responsive to orders. Within 30 seconds they had arranged themselves into 2 rows. The tall girl, the one who looked like she could probably snap a Zenthari in half, ended up at the front. The small one with the copper-brown hair ended up at the back. I walked down the line, inspecting each one. Standard procedure. Looking for obvious defects, physical weaknesses, the usual things that would tell me who would wash out in the first week. That was when I heard the growling. Deep, resonant, the kind of sound that triggers every survival instinct evolution gave you. It was coming from the far end of the bay, from the kennels where we kept the war beasts. The chill ran through my spines. They should not be making noise. They were trained to be silent unless commanded otherwise. unless they sensed something. Danger. Aggression. Blood. Instructor. One of the handlers, a nervous Pendrith named Akar, came running across the bay. His 4 eyes were wide with panic, his feathers standing on end. "Sir, we have a situation," explained Cadet. "It is Ragnar, sir. He is going berserk." He ripped through his enclosure. "He is heading this way." The human cadets started murmuring among themselves. Marcus Webb stepped forward. "Sir, what is a Ragnar?" "A war beast," I said, keeping my voice level even though my pulse was racing. 800 pounds of muscle, claws that can shred through battle armor, and teeth designed to crush bone. They are used for security, tracking, and sometimes as combat partners for elite soldiers, but they are extremely selective. They barely tolerate their handlers, let alone strangers. "Sounds like a fun time," one of the human males muttered. I think his name was Danny something. Fun time? These creatures were not fun. They were weapons, controlled weapons usually, but weapons nonetheless. The doors to the kennel burst open. Not electronically, physically burst open, hinges screaming in protest. And through the smoke and debris came Ragnar. He was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Black scales covering most of his body, with patches of dark red along his spine. 6 legs, each ending in claws the size of combat knives. A head that was mostly jaw, filled with teeth that could punch through starship hull plating. And those eyes. Yellow with slits for pupils, burning with an intelligence that was uncomfortably close to sentience. The entire bay went silent. Even the humans, who seconds ago had been chattering and joking, froze. Ragnar's nostrils flared. He was scenting the air. Hunting for something. I raised one hand slowly, signaling everyone to remain still. Movement triggered prey drive. Everyone knew that. Everyone except apparently for Cadet Webb, who took a half-step forward before I could stop him. Ragnar's head snapped toward the humans. His lips peeled back, revealing even more teeth than should have been physically possible in one mouth. "Nobody move," I hissed. "That is a direct order." The war beast began walking toward the human formation. Each step was deliberate, calculated. His claws clicked against the metal floor, a rhythmic sound that matched my racing heart. He reached the first human in line, a tall male with pale skin and red hair. Ragnar leaned in, sniffing deeply. The cadet was shaking. I could see sweat beading on his forehead. But to his credit, he held his ground. Ragnar moved on, down the line, sniffing each cadet, studying them, looking for some. A female with dark skin and intricate braids. Sniff. Dismiss. Marcus Webb. Sniff. A longer pause. Ragnar's eyes narrowed. Then he moved on. The human with the unfortunate nickname Danny something. Sniff. A low growl that made the cadet go absolutely pale. But still Ragnar moved on. He was working his way down both lines now, systematically checking every single human. The tension in the bay was thick enough to cut with a blade. Other cadets from various species had backed away, giving the war beast plenty of space. The handlers stood at the ready with stun rods, but everyone knew those would only annoy Ragnar and not stop him. Finally he reached the end of the line. The small human female, the one with copper-brown hair and that calm expression. Ragnar stopped. His massive head, which had to weigh more than her entire body, lowered to her level. His nostrils flared as he drew in her scent. She did not move, did not even blink, just stood there at attention, eyes forward, like a war beast the size of a small transport vehicle was not currently invading her personal space. Ragnar sniffed her hair, her shoulders. He walked around her in a slow circle, his tail swishing behind him. The tail alone could break bones if he swung it hard enough. Then, in a movement that made every instructor in the bay gasp, he lowered himself to the ground. All 6 legs folded beneath him, and he curled up, right there at her feet, his massive head resting on his forepaws, those burning yellow eyes half closed, looking for all the galaxy like a content pet rather than a weapon designed for maximum carnage. The girl looked down. Then, very slowly, very carefully, she looked up at me. One eyebrow raised in a silent question. What exactly am I supposed to do about this? I had no answer. In 3 cycles of working with war beasts, I had never seen anything like this. They did not curl up. They did not relax around strangers. They certainly did not pick favorites within seconds of meeting someone. Ikor, the handler, approached cautiously. "Sir, I have never seen him do that before." "Neither have I, Cadet. Neither have I." Marcus Webb cleared his throat. Sir? Permission to speak?" "Granted." "What is her name, sir?" "The cadet Ragnar has apparently adopted." I pulled up my datapad, scrolling through the roster. There she was. Cadet Emma Reeves. Age 19 standard years. Enlisted from Earth's northern continent. Previous experience with, and I quote, animal handling and wilderness survival. Animal handling web. Repeated. That grin coming back. Yeah, that tracks. What tracks, Cadet? Emma grew up on a farm, sir. She has been wrestling cattle and training dogs since she could walk. She is probably the most qualified person on Earth to deal with giant murder lizards. Ragnar is not a lizard. He is a Thorgarian assault beast, and he is not to be trifled with. Noted, sir. I approached the girl, Cadet Reeves, with careful steps. Ragnar's eyes opened fully when I got within 10 feet. A low rumble emanating from his chest. Warning, not aggression, but a warning from a creature like that was still enough to make you reconsider your life choices. Cadet Reeves, I said, keeping my voice even, do not make any sudden movements. We are going to get the handlers to sedate Ragnar and then we will extract you from this situation. She blinked. Once, then said, in the calmest voice I had ever heard from someone in mortal danger, Sir, with all due respect, I do not think he wants to hurt me. That is irrelevant. He is a war beast, not a companion animal. Yes, sir, but he is also scared. I stopped. Excuse me, he is scared, sir. Look at his posture, the way his ears are back. He is not aggressive. He is defensive. Something spooked him, and he is looking for reassurance. This was insane. She was reading behavioral cues from a creature that had been bred for thousands of years to be the perfect killing machine. But as I looked closer, I realized she was right. Ragnar's body language, now that I was paying attention, was not aggressive. It was protective, guarded. Ikor, I called to the handler. What happened before Ragnar escaped? The Pendrith shifted nervously. There was a malfunction in the environmental controls, sir. A loud noise, like an explosion, but it was just the air recyclers backfiring. But it startled him. He has always been sensitive to sudden sounds ever since. Well, since his previous handler died, that made sense. Trauma responses. Even war beasts could develop them. And if Ragnar associated loud, unexpected noises with danger, with loss, then his reaction was logical. He had panicked, broken free, and then sought out someone who felt safe. But why this human girl? Why her specifically? Cadet Reeves was still standing perfectly still, but her eyes flicked down to Ragnar. Sir, permission to try something. That depends entirely on what the something is, Cadet. I would like to sit down. If he is scared, standing over him is probably making it worse. Predators do not like things looming above them when they are vulnerable. Every instinct I had said this was a terrible idea. Protocol said to sedate the beast and remove the human from danger. But something in her voice, that quiet confidence, made me hesitate. Slowly, I finally said, any sign of aggression, and I am having you pulled out of there. Understood? Yes, sir. She moved with a grace that surprised me, lowering herself to the ground in stages, keeping her movements fluid and predictable. Ragnar watched her the entire time, but his tail, which had been swishing in agitation, stopped. When she was seated cross-legged on the floor, her back straight, her hands resting palm up on her knees, Ragnar's entire demeanor changed. The tension bled out of his muscles, his breathing deep, and then, in another move that defied everything I knew about these creatures, he inched forward and rested his massive head in her lap. The bay erupted in murmurs. Species from a dozen worlds were pulling out recording devices, snapping images, sending messages. This would be all over the galactic net within the hour. Cadet Reeves looked at the war beast in her lap. Then, very gently, she placed one small hand on his scaled head, right between the ridges of bone that protected his skull. It is okay, she whispered, so quietly I almost did not hear it. You are okay. Nobody is going to hurt you. Ragnar's eyes closed, and for the first time since he had burst into the bay, the growling stopped completely. I stood there, all four arms hanging loosely at my sides, trying to process what I was witnessing. This human, this tiny creature who had been in the academy for less than an hour, had done what trained handlers could not. She had calmed a war beast in full panic mode, not with weapons, not with commands, but with understanding, with empathy. Marcus Webb stepped up beside me. So, sir? Does this mean Emma gets to keep him? I turned to stare at the cadet. Keep him? This is not a pet store, Cadet. This is a military academy. Ragnar is military property. Yeah. But look at them. He gestured toward Reeves and the war beast, who now looked like they had known each other for years rather than minutes. I do not think Ragnar got that memo about being property. He had a point. Damn it. He had a point. I pulled up my communicator and contacted the commandant. This was way above my pay grade. Sir, we have a situation in Bay 7. It involves the new human cadets and one of the war beasts. No injuries, but you need to see this for yourself. The commandant's voice crackled back. Define situation, instructor. I looked at Emma Reeves, sitting calmly on the floor with 800 pounds of apex predator snuggling into her lap like an overgrown puppy. Sir, I honestly do not even know where to begin. The commandant arrived within 10 minutes, which told me exactly how seriously he was taking the situation. Commandant Jorah was a Vexillian, which meant he looked like someone had crossed a mantis with a dragon, and then given the result a really bad attitude. His carapace gleamed under the bay lights, deep purple with gold accents that marked his rank. When he walked, his 6 legs made a sound like swords being drawn from scabbards. He stopped at the edge of the crowd that had formed around Cadet Reeves and Ragnar. His mandibles clicked together, which I had learned meant he was thinking very hard about something unpleasant. Instructor Vexthar explained. So I did. The whole thing. The arrival of the humans, the escape, the sniffing inspection, and finally the current situation where one of our most dangerous war beasts had decided a 19-year-old farm girl from Earth was his new best friend. Jorah's antennae twitched. His version of raising an eyebrow. And the cadet is unharmed. Completely, sir. In fact, she seems more concerned about Ragnar's well-being than her own. Of course she is. Humans. He said it like it was a curse word. Then he stepped forward, his approach causing Ragnar's eyes to snap open. The war beast lifted his head from Emma's lap, a warning growl building in his chest. Easy, Emma said softly, her hand still resting on Ragnar's head. He is the boss. We have to be respectful. I am not sure what shocked me more. That she was coaching a war beast on military protocol, or that Ragnar actually seemed to be listening. The growl subsided to a low rumble, then stopped altogether. But his eyes never left the commandant. Zora studied the pair for a long moment. Cadet Reeves, I presume? Yes, sir. She did not try to stand or salute. Smart girl. Moving suddenly would have been a terrible idea. Do you understand what you are sitting with, Cadet? A Thorgarian assault beast, sir. Bred for combat, trained for security operations. Extremely intelligent, highly territorial, and currently experiencing a stress response due to environmental factors. Jorah's mandibles clicked again. Faster this time. Surprise. You have been here less than an hour. How do you know all that? I read the Academy manual on the shuttle, sir. All 1,700 pages. The section on war beasts was particularly interesting. Also, he is shaking. Just a little. But I can feel it. That is fear, not aggression. Most species cannot tell the difference, Cadet. Most species did not grow up around animals, sir. Fair point. I had read Emma's file more thoroughly while waiting for the commandant. She had not just worked on a farm. She had run an animal sanctuary, rescued creatures that had been abused, neglected, or traumatized, rehabilitated. The success rate was apparently remarkable, even by Earth standards. Jorah circled them slowly, keeping his distance. Ragnar's head tracked his movement, but the war beast made no move to attack. The question is, what do we do now? We cannot have cadets bonding with war beasts. It creates complications. With respect, sir, Marcus Webb spoke up from the formation. Maybe complications are not always bad. Every eye in the bay turned to him, including mine. You did not interrupt the commandant. You especially did not question the commandant's assessment of a situation, but Webb did not seem intimidated. He stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back in a position of respect. Sir, I served 2 years in Earth's Marine Corps before applying to the Academy. I worked with military dogs, German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, breeds that have been partners to soldiers for centuries. The bond between handler and animal? That is not a complication. That is an asset. A dog will die for its handler. It will fight when injured, track when exhausted, and never ever leave its human behind. Jorah tilted his head. War beasts are not dogs, Cadet. No, sir, they are bigger, meaner, and probably smarter. But the principle is the same. If Ragnar has chosen Emma, and Emma can work with him, you are not looking at a complication. You are looking at the most effective combat team in this academy. The silence that followed was heavy. I could see the calculations running behind Jorah's compound eyes. The precedent this would set. The questions it would raise. But also the possibilities. Ikor, Jorah called to the handler. In your professional opinion, can Ragnar be reassigned to another handler? The Pendrit's feathers flattened against his skull. A sign of distress. Sir, we have tried 3 times since his original handler was killed in combat. Each time, he rejected the new assignment. Violently. 2 handlers required medical attention. We were considering whether he needed to be retired from service, and now, Ikor looked at Emma and Ragnar. Sir, I have never seen him this calm with anyone except handler Korva. And even with Korva, it took months to build that trust. This human has done it in minutes. Jorah's antennae quivered. Decision made. Cadet Reeves, on your feet. Emma looked down at Ragnar. I need to stand up now. Is that okay? She was asking permission from a war beast. This got more ridiculous by the minute. But Ragnar simply lifted his head, allowing her to shift her weight and rise smoothly to her feet. Once standing, she snapped to attention and delivered the crispest salute I had seen from any of the human cadets. Cadet Emma Reeves reporting, sir. At ease, Cadet. I am assigning Ragnar to your care, effective immediately. You will be responsible for his feeding, training, health, and combat readiness. You will attend standard classes with your unit, but you will also undergo specialized handler training with Ikor and the beast management team. Failure to maintain control of your war beast will result in disciplinary action up to and including expulsion from the academy. Do you accept these terms? Emma did not hesitate. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Then congratulations, you are now the first human war beast handler in galactic military history. Try not to let it go to your head. A grin spread across Emma's face. Not the cocky, wild grin of Marcus Webb. This was pure joy. I will do my best, sir. See that you do. Dismissed. All of you. Get these humans processed into their quarters. Training begins at 0600 tomorrow. And I expect everyone to be sharp. The crowd began to disperse. Cadets chattering excitedly in a dozen different languages. But as the human formation started to move out, Ragnar rose to his feet with a rumble that stopped everyone cold. Emma, Marcus said carefully. I think your new friend wants to go with you. She looked at the war beast, then at me. Is that allowed, sir? I consulted my datapad. Technically, there was nothing in the regulations that said a war beast could not accompany a cadet to quarters. Then again, there was nothing that said one could, either. This was entirely new territory. Ikor, is there a protocol for this? The handler looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Handler Korva lived in specialized quarters adjacent to the kennels, but those are currently empty. If Cadet Reeves is going to be Ragnar's primary handler, it would make sense for her to be housed there, which meant separating her from the rest of the human cadets. Not ideal for unit cohesion, but probably necessary. You could not exactly have an 800-pound war beast sleeping in a barracks with 15 other teenagers. Very well, Cadet Reeves. You will be housed in Handler Suite 12. Ikor will show you the way and get you settled. The rest of you, follow me to the cadet barracks. Marcus stepped next to Emma. You good? I am better than good. I am amazing. She looked down at Ragnar, who was watching her with something that might have been devotion. We are going to get along just fine. Right, big guy? Ragnar made a sound I had never heard from a war beast before. Something between a purr and a rumble. Content. Yeah, that is what I thought, Emma said. Then, to everyone's amazement, she scratched behind one of his ear ridges. His back leg started twitching, like a dog getting a good belly rub. Marcus laughed. Oh man, wait until the folks back home hear about this. Earth Girl goes to space, immediately adopts a murder dragon. He is not a murder dragon, Emma protested. He is a good boy who has had a rough time. Is that not right? Yes, it is. She was baby talking to a war beast. I needed a drink. The next few days were chaos. Controlled chaos, but chaos, nonetheless. The human cadets threw themselves into training with an enthusiasm that bordered on reckless. They complained about nothing, questioned everything, and somehow managed to turn every exercise into a competition. Physical training? They pushed until they collapsed, then got up and pushed harder. Tactical simulations. They tried strategies that should not have worked but somehow did. Weapons practice. They treated it like a sport, keeping score and trash-talking each other in that peculiar way. Humans did that. Sounded insulting but was apparently a sign of affection. And Emma? She was everywhere. Morning runs with Ragnar loping beside her, the war beast matching her pace with ease. Classroom sessions where she took notes while Ragnar lay at her feet, his massive head resting on her boots. Combat drills, where she and Ragnar moved together like they had been training for years rather than days. The other cadets did not know what to make of it. The Zanthari warriors were impressed but wary. The Boruvian scouts found it tactically fascinating. The Klaxons just wanted to study Ragnar's biomechanics, much to his annoyance, but it was the other human cadets' reactions that interested me most. They were protective of Emma in a way that went beyond simple unit loyalty. Marcus especially. He appointed himself her unofficial bodyguard, despite the fact that she had an 800-pound war beast doing that job already. She is the youngest, he explained when I asked about it during a break in training, and the smallest. Back home we look out for our own. She has Ragnar now. I doubt she needs protection. Respectfully, sir. Having a giant combat lizard does not mean she does not need friends. Especially when every other species in this academy is looking at her like she is either a miracle or a threat. He was not wrong. The attention Emma was getting was intense. Some of it was positive. Admiration for her skill, curiosity about her methods. But some of it was darker. Resentment, fear, jealousy. It came to a head during a joint training exercise in week 2. The scenario was simple. Multiple teams, mixed species, had to infiltrate a mock facility and retrieve an objective without being detected. Emma's team included Marcus, a Zanthari named Crix, and a Boruvian scout called Tala. They were doing well, too well according to some of the other teams. Ragnar's senses were giving them an unfair advantage. He could smell opponents hiding in ventilation shafts, hear them moving through corridors 3 levels away. It was, as one disgruntled Klaxon put it, basically cheating. That Klaxon, whose name was Glix, decided to file a formal complaint. I was called to media. Instructor Vexthar, it is blatantly unfair, Glix insisted, his tentacles writhing in agitation. War beasts are supposed to be tools, not team members. Giving one team access to capabilities the rest of us do not have violates the spirit of fair competition. Emma stood at attention, Ragnar sitting beside her in a perfect guard position. Sir, permission to respond. Granted. With respect to Cadet Glix, every species in this academy has unique capabilities. The Zanthari have crystallized skin that acts as natural armor. The Boruvians can see infrared and ultraviolet. The Klaxons have 4 independent thinking processes running simultaneously. We all bring different strengths to the table. Ragnar is my strength the same way Glix's engineering genius is his. That is different, Glix sputtered. My intelligence is mine, I was born with it. You were assigned a weapon. Emma's eyes narrowed. Ragnar is not a weapon. He is my partner. And I have worked my tail off learning how to communicate with him, understand him, and earn his trust. That is not an assignment. That is a relationship. And if you spent half as much time building relationships with your team as you do complaining about mine, maybe your scores would be better. Oh. Burn. Several cadets made sounds that I had learned were the universal indicators of someone getting verbally destroyed. Glix's skin flushed a dark purple. Anger. You humans think you are so special. One of you shows up and suddenly you are the commandant's favorite, getting special treatment and privileges. Special treatment? Marcus stepped forward, his voice hard. She sleeps in a room that smells like Ragnar's last 3 meals. She wakes up an hour before the rest of us to feed and exercise him. She is taking double classes because she has to do handler training on top of regular coursework. If that is special treatment, I will pass, thanks. Besides, Tala added, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence. Emma shared her notes from handler training with anyone who asked. She has helped every team develop strategies to counter Ragnar's abilities. She is not hoarding her advantages. She is making all of us better. I had not known that. I checked my datapad. Sure enough, Emma had uploaded detailed files about Ragnar's capabilities, weaknesses, and behavioral patterns to the shared training database. Information that could be used against her, freely given to help others improve. That was very human, and very, very smart. She was not just building a reputation as a skilled handler. She was building alliances, making herself valuable to the entire academy. Cadet Glix, I said. Your complaint is noted and denied. Cadet Reeves and Ragnar are operating within all established guidelines. If you wish to improve your team's performance, I suggest you take her advice and focus on cooperation rather than competition. Dismissed. Glix stormed off, his tentacles slapping the ground in frustration. But I noticed several other cadets approaching Emma afterward, asking questions, requesting advice, building those bridges she had started. That night I filed my weekly report to the commandant. I kept it brief. The human experiment is exceeding expectations. Recommend continued integration and observation. Special note. Cadet Reeves has established unprecedented bond with Warbeast Ragnar. Suggest formalizing human Warbeast handler program for future cadets. Jorah's response came back within an hour.
Agreed.
Also, we are getting inquiries from 3 other planets about human training methods. Apparently, videos of your cadets have gone viral on the Galactic net. Public relations is thrilled. Keep up the good work. Viral. Of course they were viral. Humans did not do anything quietly. The final test of the first training cycle came in week 4, a 72-hour field exercise in hostile terrain. Teams would be dropped in random locations and had to navigate to a central extraction point while dealing with environmental hazards, simulated enemy combatants, and limited supplies. Emma's team was dropped in a canyon system known for its extreme temperature swings and predatory wildlife. Not simulated wildlife. Real creatures that saw cadets as potential meals. I monitored their progress from the command center. For the first day, everything went smoothly. They made good time, avoided the major predators, and rationed their supplies carefully. Marcus proved to be an excellent navigator. Crix provided security. Tala scouted ahead, and Emma and Ragnar served as the team's early warning system and heavy assault option when needed. But on day 2, everything went wrong. A rock slide, triggered by seismic activities, separated the team. Marcus and Tala were on one side of the canyon. Emma, Crix, and Ragnar were on the other, and between them was a 300-foot drop. Command, this is Team 7. Marcus's voice came through with static interference. We have a situation. Requesting guidance. I reviewed their options. They could backtrack, add 12 hours to their journey. They could try to climb down and up, risky but possible, or they could split up, each group making their own way to extraction. Before I could respond, Emma's voice cut in. Negative, Command. We are not splitting up. Give us 20 minutes. Cadet Reeves. That was not a request for time. That was a request for orders. Understood, sir, but I have an idea. Ragnar can jump this gap. I have seen him clear obstacles twice this size in training. If I can rig a rope system, he can carry a line across. We can set up a zip line for the others. That is insane, Crix said over the comm. Even if Ragnar makes the jump, how do you rig a rope strong enough to hold Marcus's weight? I have cargo straps, climbing cord, and a lot of determination. Trust me, there was that word again. Trust. The thing humans seem to build faster than any species I had ever encountered. Marcus did not hesitate. Do it. We will be ready on this side. I watched through the drone feeds as Emma worked. She stripped gear from her pack, wove the materials together with techniques I did not recognize. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. Farm girl skills meeting military necessity. Ragnar watched her work, occasionally sniffing at the rope as if quality checking her efforts. When she was done, she tied one end around his chest harness, ran it through a carabiner anchored to the canyon wall, and tied the other end to herself. Okay, big guy. This is going to be scary, but I trust you, and you trust me, right? Ragnar huffed. Then he backed up, getting a running start. Emma braced herself, gripping the rope with both hands. Wait, I said into the comm. Cadet Reeves, if he does not make it, he will make it, sir. I know he will. Ragnar ran, 6 legs pumping, claws digging into stone for traction. He reached the edge and launched himself into empty air. For a moment, 800 pounds of Warbeast was suspended above a lethal drop. Legs splayed, tail streaming behind him like a banner. He hit the opposite ledge with inches to spare. His claws scrabbled for purchase, sending rocks tumbling into the abyss. But he held. He held. Emma let out a whoop of triumph that probably echoed through half the canyon. Yes! That is my boy! That is my good, brave, amazing boy! Ragnar shook himself off, then turned and made a sound that clearly meant your turn, human. The rope system worked. Marcus and Tala made it across without incident. The team regrouped, celebrated briefly, and then pushed on toward extraction. They made it with 6 hours to spare. Exhausted, filthy, but triumphant. When they stumbled into the extraction zone, the other teams that were already there started applauding. Not just the humans. Everyone. Zenthari, Baruvians, even Glix, the Klaxon, was clapping his tentacles together in approval. Emma just smiled, scratched Ragnar behind his ear ridges and said, "We are going to need about a week's worth of food and a very long nap." Noted. I said, trying to keep the pride out of my voice, and failing miserably. Congratulations, Team 7. Mission accomplished. That night I updated my report again. Commandant, the humans are ready. All of them. They have exceeded every metric we established. They work well with other species, adapt quickly to new situations, and show leadership qualities that surprise even their instructors. Recommend full approval for continued human integration into the Academy program. Zara's response was immediate. Already done. We are expanding the human program to include 50 cadets next cycle, and Vexthari. Good work. You were skeptical at first, but you gave them a fair chance. That is all anyone can ask. I sat back in my chair, all four arms spread wide. The humans were here to stay. And honestly, I was okay with that. They were loud, chaotic, and completely unpredictable, but they were also brave, loyal, and apparently capable of befriending anything up to and including war beasts bred for maximum lethality. The galaxy was not going to know what hit it. And I had a front row seat to watch it happen. Down in the barracks I could hear the humans celebrating. Music blaring, voices raised in song, laughter echoing through the corridors, and somewhere in the middle of it all I imagined Emma Reeves sitting on her bunk, Ragnar's massive head in her lap, both of them finally getting the rest they deserved. The war beast had chosen well, and so perhaps had